I want to thank Mary Ann for inviting me. I too am very passionate about manufacturing and value added, which is what comes from manufacturing. Again, the intent of my presentation is value added and what is value added. I'm going to attempt to explain the definition, but more importantly, what is value added and what's the value of value added. That's my goal. I want to start out by going back to World War II. You might say, what's World War II got to do with the word value added? I want to build, hopefully, a scenario that will help you appreciate and understand what value added means and the value of it. After World War II, the United States became the economic king of the world. How and why? Because we defeated the enemy? Yes, we did defeat the enemy, and some say we defeated the enemy because we had the manufacturing capability here in the United States to build more planes and more tanks than they could shoot down or blow up. True to a degree, that's why we won the war, but it was also the many hundreds of thousands of lives. What this did was, we then, after World War II, had the only massive manufacturing capability in the world. What this did was, we were able to produce what the world wanted. Obviously in the United States, as well as the rest of the world. So we were able to produce products and ship them around the world. All other major industrialized companies had been devastated because of the war. So what we did after World War II, WW2, was we exported products, and guess what? We imported wealth. You're going to hear me say this about 3 or 4 times. I'm going to say it again right now. We became the economic king of the world because we exported product and imported wealth. Very key. And it came through value added too as well. I want to talk a little bit about Japan. Japan, after the war, of course, was devastated, and the Marshall Plan, and our money, we helped build them. That's okay. We devastated them. They were laughed at during the 50s. Those of you who were alive then, and know, the products that they made and the toys, they fell apart. The big joke was, in the early 60s, if you buy a Japanese car, you look under the hood, you can see Coca-Cola stamped underneath of the hood or under the fenders. So Japan knew that manufacturing and export was how wealth is generated, or the major wealth generating machine of any country's economy. So they knew that they were being laughed at. And they said, we're not going to let this happen. And so I'm trying to remember the doctor's name. Thank you. Dr. Deming went over there and assisted them in working with teams to build product that were quality products. During the 70s, mid-70s, I noticed that in fact the products that they were making were quality products. The biggest factor, and the biggest shock to me, came in 1978. In 1978, my largest customer, I want to go back one thing. Aero Gears supplies more gears for the aerospace industry here in Downers Grove, Illinois, than any other loose gear manufacturer in the world. Most people don't know that, but we supply more gears for the aerospace industry than anyone. Anyway, so we My largest customer was at that time, Aero Gear was strictly commercial. We exported nothing. It was all domestic consumption. 1978, Gary M was his name. Mary Ann knows Gary. Vice President of Marketing and Sales came to me and said, we're going to lose our largest customer. Happened to be in Milwaukee, so I went up there and met with the Director of Purchasing, Procurement, and I said, what's the problem? I said, you want us to lower the price by 2%, 5%? I think I could do that. And he said, how about 30? I said, 30? He said, 30%. And I said, I can't do it. I'm not making 30% profit. He said, well, I said, who on earth is making these gears? He said, a company in Japan, happened to be called Kohara Gear, not that that matters, KHK. And I said, come on, Phil. I said, I can't believe that they're manufacturing these gears in Japan, transporting them over here, warehousing them, and feeding them out to you weekly as we do. And he says, Joe, they are. And he said, I knew you would say that. Opened up his desk drawer, these are small gears for power hand tools. Had a package of them in cellophane, threw it over to me, and he said, there's the gears that they make. Take them back, test them, cut them up, whatever. I said, okay, and then I said, well, what about the price? He said, here, and he showed me their quotation. I grabbed the gears up, ran back, gave it 2 or 3 of them to our metallurgical department. I said, cut them up. I want to know everything about these gears. I want to know the material, the core structure. And then I went to the metrology lab. I said, check them. I want to find out something wrong with these gears. They did look beautiful, by the way, and I'll get into that. And so they came back, reported to me, and they said, Joe, their gears are as good as ours, and they look better cosmetically. And so I said, oh my gosh. So I went and then I was vice president. I went to the president and I said, I want to go to Japan. And he said, you want to go to Japan? You want a vacation? Okay, Joe, take a couple of weeks and go to Japan. I said, no, I want to go over there and see what they're doing. And how can they do this? So after about 6 months of trying to figure out how do I go there and how do I get in there, at that time I was on the board of the American Gear Manufacturers Association, and I had the opportunity to meet the executive director of the Japanese Gear Manufacturers Association. And I called him and I said, I want to bring a group of people with me from the AGMA and tour Japan. Could you set up a tour? By the way, I'd like to go to KHK. He says, well, I'll get back to you. Well, about 3 months later, after back and forth, everything was set up. We visited machine tool builders as well as gear manufacturing company. And at Kohara, when we went there, they had all CNC machines manufacturing gears, where at Aero Gear, that was 1980 when I finally got over there. In 1980, we had one CNC machine. All the machines they had in their factory in Japan were numerical control, in case you don't know what CNC is. It's numerical control machines. Visiting the machine tool companies, I came back, wrote a report on what I saw. Frank Pielsiger was the president and co-founder of the company at the time. And Frank said, I was talking with Jack Worth, who was the VP of Warner & Swayze in Cleveland. Told him about your visit. He said he'd like you to come and talk to him. I went to Warner & Swayze, met with Jack, took me on a plant tour, went back to his office, and he said, what do you think? And I said, Jack, you're out of business. He said, what? I said, you're going out of business. You're not going to survive. He said, why? And I said, you have only 1 or 2 that I noticed, numerical control machines. I said, Mazak and Morisiki had all new CNC machine tools, manufacturing CNC machine tools. They had overbelt drives at Warner & Swayze. To show you how old, those of you who know what overbelt drives machine, you'll know what I'm talking about. That was in 1981 when I went to see Jack. 1988, they did in fact go out of business. Okay, let's move on. Aero Gear. When I saw what was going on, I said, oh boy, this is terrible. For the next 10 years, I took tours by virtue of contacting the director of the gear manufacturing in the various foreign countries. And so for the next 10 years, every September, I would go on a tour and visit We've visited 21 different industrialized countries and 81 different manufacturing and R&D centers and universities for gears. At that point, well before, after, into the 80s, or pardon me, to the 90s, since I started doing the tours in 81, or 80, was my first one, I told the board of directors, Mary Ann's father-in-law, James J. Cervenka, who passed away, God rest his soul, was the other co-founder of Aero Gear. And I said, we got to get out of our position as a high volume, medium quality company, and we have to get into more high quality gears with medium volume, because most of the high volume gears, or whatever, high volume, medium quality products were going offshore. They agreed, and by 1995, we were 75% aerospace. I came from an aerospace background, and so that was why I was able to do it. One of the tours was China. I could talk 15 minutes about my tour to China. I'll try, Mary Ann, when I get past my time, wave your arms, okay? Tell me, shut up, Joe. Anyway, 06 was we had an office in Shanghai. We closed it in December of 2012. One of the companies that I visited in China was in Chongqiao, in the Hunan province, and I went there because they were similar to Aero Gear. They were specialists in aerospace gears and gearboxes. In 06, they were similar to Aero Gear, but this time Aero Gear knew we had to have CNC numerical control machines in order to be competitive in the world marketplace. And by the way, we are now exporting a third of our products. We're $45 million in sales, and we're exporting 1/3 of our products, bringing wealth. Exporting product and bringing wealth into the United States, how we became the economic king of the world. Anyway, I almost lost my train of thought, or I guess I did. 06, China. Went back in 08. Oh, they had the same, at that time, we were probably 70% numerical control machines and 30% conventional machines. They were about the same. In 08, I went back. They had a plant expansion, all CNC machines. I was talking to the chairman of the board there, and I said, boy, you must really be profitable, because how did you get all this money to buy all these new machines? He said, the government. The government knows how important manufacturing is and the value added that comes from manufacturing. And so, we hire people. I said, duh, that's right, that's cool. You have money given to you by the government. I'm not standing up here saying the U.S. government has to save the manufacturing industrial base. I'll get into that. We're going to have a question and answer period. Okay. Anyway, very disheartening for me to come back and know that they had all new CNC machines. Let's talk just real briefly about the trade deficit. That's what I'm talking about. Export, imports, wealth generation, product imports. For the last 27 years, you might want to write this down, not that there's going to be a test, but for the last 27 years, we have had a trade deficit of manufactured goods. The last 27 years, a trade deficit of manufacturing gears. Over $11 trillion have left the shores of the United States, not to be taxed, not to go to the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, not to the insurance broker, not to your banker, not to your lawyer, not to your professors, but have gone offshore. And that's why we're having problems here in the United States with the standard of living is in fact going down for the middle class. Why? Because we're exporting our wealth and importing foreign products. Write that down. Okay, last year, the trade deficit was over $700 billion. You say, well, okay, 11 trillion, 700 billion, that's a lot of money. Well, it sure in heck is a lot of money, and it sure is why we got a lot of unrest here in the United States, because we can't afford to take care of the infrastructure. All right, let's let's get to what's value added. Well, value added comes from four major places. Value added comes from the crops that are grown. Harvested, sold. There's value added there, of course. Number two, and not necessarily in order of importance, is mining. What you take from the ground. Not from on top of the ground, but what you take from out of the ground. That's a value added. The next one is from the waters. From the rivers, the lakes, the streams, and the oceans. You harvest, sell the product, provide food as a value added. The last one is manufacturing. Manufacturing has more value added than all of the others, not necessarily put together, but is primarily, they provide 3 to 5 jobs. Manufacturing does. Manufacturing, you need lawyers, you need professors, you need education for an educated workforce, you need bankers, you need hired employees. They're the most hiring more employees per value added. Let's go to the value added while I'm here now. Oh, before I go to that, I'm going to show you these. I'll show you these right now. Value added. This is a gear that goes into a jet engine. The material for this gear is $64. We sell this gear for $4,300. We sell this gear, I'm repeating, $4,300. $4,300 we sell this gear for. 150 people, no, there's 150 operations to manufacture this part. Anyone of you is involved in manufacturing, you can see there's internal splines that are ground, external splines, external gears, spiral bevel gear, welded. Besides that, there are 250 people that touch that gear. Value added. Where are you going to get value added like that? With people being hired, paying taxes, going to the government. This is a wing flap gear for the Boeing 777. This gear, we buy the material $16. We sell it for $80. It's just a piece of bar stock, aerospace ball. This one, 80 people touch that gear. That's real value added. Yeah, good, because I'm wrapping up right now. Without people being hired, good paying jobs, how much do you think a machine operator makes or a janitor at a manufacturing company as opposed to working at McDonald's or at a bank, at the clerk at the bank? Last year, and Mary Ann can attest to this, the lowest paid person who worked full time was a janitor stock mover. $38,000. $38,000. What did the highest paid hourly man make? $92,000. I think we had one that was over $100,000, didn't we? That's what I thought. But we got several of them that were at $92,000. According to Industry Week magazine, the average pay for manufacturing is $74,000 a year. These are good paying jobs. We have health insurance. We have pension plans. We have 401k. Manufacturing is the most value added to what we're doing now. And you heard this. I'm going to stop here just 1 minute. I started out by saying that we became the economic king of the world because why? Because we exported products and imported wealth. With this $11 trillion leaving us, we are now exporting our wealth and importing products. I can't emphasize more. The government runs on taxes. Here's a cool one. I said I was going to stop in a minute. Sequestrian. Most of you have heard, maybe everyone's heard about Sequestrian, right? Sikorsky, let's choose them. Sikorsky helicopter. Major customer of Aero here. Black Hawk. You all heard Black Hawk down, right? We were supposed to be making 10 sets of transmission gears per month. We're making 3. And I said, why? He said, well, sequestering. Went and met with the general manager there, sat across the desk, crying. I hired the people and put the machine tools in, and you were going to promise me 10, and I'm getting only 3 sets. He said, Joe, sorry, I feel your pain, but I can't do anything about it because the government is not buying the helicopter because it's primarily military. So I said, well, can you do anything else for us? He said, I'm laying people off here. What this does is that the government doesn't have the money coming in for taxes, so they're cutting programs. It's like, well, you have to cut programs if you don't have the money. You can't just let the money keep going out. So they cut the defense as well as other things. I and others lay people off. They're not paying taxes. The money doesn't go to the government. The government says, oh, my gosh, we're not getting revenue. We're going to have programs. So they cut the programs. I'm going to lay more people off. They're not going to be paying taxes. So the government runs on taxes, and taxes come from hiring people, getting people back to work. Every other industrialized nation knows the importance of manufacturing, and China said they're going to be the manufacturing capital of the world. Germany is fantastic. They've got training programs over there. I don't want to get into that because that's part of your questions, but Germany's got a great training program, vocational program for machinists. They are the only bright spot in Europe, those of you who pay attention to what's going on in Europe, because they export, because they do manufacturing, and they have a lot of trained people. We need to do that. I applaud Marianne and the rest of you that are trying to help give us a trained workforce. End of my speech. Thank you.